Hello everyone and welcome back to the planet of the GeekWave. This is the low budget show. It's the show so low it has no budget. And it's Apes Week, everybody. The apes are coming back big and strong, and I just want to talk about them because I love apes. More importantly, perhaps to this video and just into like pop culture in general, I love a planet full of apes. Some might say I love a planet of the apes. I love apes. Ape episode. Yeah, it's time to talk apes. More ramblings about apes coming up. I just love it. And we're going to get into it right away. But we got a little bit of news to talk about first. Some very interesting stuff, actually. Things I didn't think we'd be able to talk about just because I didn't think we'd ever get here again or be here again. But here we are with some interesting news. All of it is actually stuff that is very interesting. Like, I pulled together things that I'm like, this is a lot to talk about. So that's kind of exciting. Some first looks at some upcoming stuff, some new movie announcements, and just general bullshit and whatever comes up from that. So let's kick off the news with this little tidbit that I find very interesting. Following the success of The Curse, which was the A24 produced Nathan Fielder and Emma Stone project, the two will be working with each other yet again on a new film that will be produced by Emma Stone and Dave McCary. Fruit Tree Banner, is that what they're Fruit Tree? I don't remember. Like their production company. And it's about a scandal in chess. Do you remember this? The film will be called Checkmate, and essentially it's about like this stuff with like Magnus Carlsen was beaten by like Hans Niemann, and everyone thinks like the kid cheated and like managed to like weasel his way to the top of like chess in some capacity. Seems like the type of just like randomness and just like absurd true life story that Fielder would be really good at like portraying and just like explaining and exploiting in some aspect. So I like that. You know, I feel like it's been a while since two people have found such like perfect chemistry in their cringe with each other, but that's just what we got here. Like these two people clearly work well together in like this weird, bizarre setting. And you just love to see that. It works so well for them. I really appreciate that. So Stone and Fielder are going to be back together. Awesome. I love seeing those two, them working together again in any capacity. I'm for it. That sounds really awesome. It's cool. You know what else is pretty cool? I guess. I don't know. I've heard mixed things about this from people. Mike Flanagan is potentially going to be the guy to follow up the Exorcist movie with his Exorcist movie, which is kind of fun. You know, he saved like the Ouija franchise, so sure, coming over to Exorcist makes sense. It is one of like those last big properties of like the 70s nostalgia that makes sense for Flanagan to touch. That is just his wheelhouse. The dude loves that specific type of horror, and him coming over here to do something in that world makes perfect sense to me. I'm not against this. I've heard people being like, oh no, it's Flanagan trapped in the franchise stuff. He loves franchise stuff. The dude wants to adapt every Stephen King thing possible. Like, it's his favorite thing to do, is this. So let him do more franchise stuff. Let him do like a property and make it his own. That's not a problem. Not a problem at all. He can do something very special with that. And we should let him try. I'm not against it. I'm not for it because I don't think any Exorcist movie aside from like the original one has been great. I like some attempts that were made, but you know, we're going to have to do them anyways, so might as well get a talented director who is very capable of doing stuff like this to make it. That's just my 2 cents. Speaking of something Exorcist related, it is officially confirmed. Finally, it's been far too long since we've had the confirmation that Russell Crowe's Pope's Exorcist will be getting a sequel. Oh, hell yeah. This is awesome. That movie was so good in like a very weird, specific, stupid way. I love it so much. What an insane premise for a film. Just a crazy idea that they loosely based off true events and real people. I appreciate every single second of that movie just freaking existing and doing its craziness and whatever weirdness that becomes. I love it so much. And it's getting a sequel. I hope it's because I've been singing its praises since it came out, that I am a little bit a part of this. Please let me be in the sequel. I will do anything. I'll be anything. I'll be an exorcist thing, like a demon. I'll be like his Q. I think he had a Q in the last one, though. Just let me be like the Blofeld or something. Just like, let me be the henchman. Like, I'm not even a demon possessed. I'm just like a guy that works for like a demon that took over like a priest or something. That would be so cool. I love this so much. That movie's insane. It is just like, actually, if you think about it, everything bad that ever happened was because of the Spanish Inquisition, because they summoned a demon. And I'm like, I guess? Is that why priests touch little boys? And they're like, yeah, that is why. Because of the Spanish Inquisition. Nobody expects them. I'm like, oh my God, you're right. I wasn't expecting this. You won me over. That's crazy. It's crazy. You gotta respect it. You gotta respect an insane movie for just doing an insane movie thing. Now, speaking of insane movies, this one was kind of teased the other day, and it just sounds truly insane. This is a Hugh Jackman and Jodie Comer led movie called The Death of Robin Hood. Now, essentially what this is going to be, it's an older version of Robin Hood grappling with his past after a life of crime and murder. Instead of the merry outlaw seen in previous iterations being like a cool guy, this one is a battle-worn loner who finds himself gravely injured and in the hands of a mysterious woman who offers him a chance at salvation. Shut the fuck up. Who wants that? Who wants that? They're like, it's reminiscent of like the Robin and Marion movie with Sean Connery and Hepburn. I'm like, that sounds terrible. I love it so much. What a stupid idea. Like, why does Hugh Jackman pick the strangest projects? He'll always be Wolverine. I don't even think this is going to be the last time we see him as Wolverine in this upcoming movie. And then he's like, I'm going to make the memory movie where I miss my wife, but my memory's gone. Reminisce. And now it's like, I'm going to be Robin Hood. Go to Broadway, my guy. You clearly just want to make musicals and have fun over there and hang out with Bryan Singer. Just do that. I don't think anyone's going to be mad at you for, like, some of that. I mean, this sounds so stupid. Oh, man. Ridiculous. Like, what kind of an interpretation of Robin Hood is this? Taking away all the fun that people like about Robin Hood and giving it this. That is so weird. That is so specific and weird and not interesting and not something that I think Hugh can portray properly. So weird. And Jodie Comer, like, why are you doing this? You could do better. Get something to, like, put you on top. I don't know. You know, I say all this, but The Greatest Showman made like $400 million. So clearly, like, Hugh Jackman sells? Because what else was the selling point of that movie? I don't know. It's so weird to me. This movie sounds stupid. The Death of Robin Hood. What if, like, an old man was dying and, like, burdened all of his sins onto a young woman? I'm like, who cares? That sounds stupid. But you know what? It's the kind of film like a freak would make. Do we have a director? Let's see. Okay, they're set to close a deal, a cheery-sounding new film from Michael Sornowski, the director of the critically acclaimed Pig, and this summer's A Quiet Place Day One. So Pig fucking rocks. That movie is incredible. But A Quiet Place Day One, that is definitely like a Barry Jenkins doing Mufasa the Lion King. You can lie all you want, Barry. You got it for the money. I didn't put the Lion King stuff in the news. I will talk about it briefly. Weird. Looks insane. Like, looks like it's for nobody and about nothing and destroys the lore. I don't know. What a weird movie. What a weird time for movies. Because we also got a first look, thanks to, like, I think it's like a French trailer release or whatever. Megalopolis. We have hardly talked about Megalopolis on this channel. This is the 40-year-old passion project from astonishing director, Francis Ford Coppola, who is just like, I wanted to make this forever. It never seemed like the right time. Now is the time, I guess, because I'm going to put the money on my vineyard on the line, and I'm going to finance this myself, and the French will release it, and maybe you'll see it somewhere. It's coming out. We got a first look at Megalopolis. God damn, this is exciting. This is what I want. A director fully embracing the digital aspect of digital cinematography and stuff, doing his Matrix Resurrections, which is not a movie I loved too much, but my God, is it cool to see like Coppola's like, oh, I could just use digital cameras and like do like tricks in post? Okay, I'm going to do that. I'm going to have Adam Driver stand on the top of a building. He's going to look down and freeze time because he's a little freak. Oh, yeah. I'm in. I'm so in. This looks absolutely bonkers, and we only saw like a minute-long clip. I'm so in for this weirdness. Adam Driver is the guy you get when you want your passion project to get made. Terry Gilliam's The Death of Don Quixote movie, and Michael Mann's Ferrari movie, and now Francis Ford Coppola's Megalopolis. But this looks awesome. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? This shit looks awesome, man. So stupid and weird, and so for nobody but Coppola. And that's an awesome feeling. Just completely do something for you, man. That's what movies should be. Stop making like The Lion King. Stop making The Death of Robin Hood. Make something for you that you want to make. That is awesome. And it's going to be very special. I cannot wait to see what happens in this. It could be crazy or it could just be stupid. I don't know. It's kind of cool either way. We also got another first look for a big movie coming out very soon. The first image of David Corenswet as Superman has dropped. And it's kind of a mixed feeling, you know? It looks more over-designed than I think a lot of people were expecting, which I guess is par for the course. I don't know. I guess we all kind of thought that, like, James Gunn was going to stick to, like, the traditional-looking suit. The bright blue, the trunks. The trunks are there. A little bit of over-design. But I do kind of get the vibe that we're going to see like a suit transformation because it doesn't really look like the suit that they teased in the promo earlier. So we're going to see some evolution. I mean, I'm not the first person to say this. I do think it's very possible that we're going to see like the like opposite effect of the Kingdom Come, where it starts off as like this, you know, intense militaristic, everything has to be by the book, and then we slowly see Superman go against the American people to become like his own homegrown soldier and somebody that's like not for, you know, one place but for everybody. So it's going to be like the DMCUification of a costume where it's going to start off looking intense and slowly become just like a normal looking thing. Maybe that could be it. I don't know. I do like the costume. Like, I'm not against it. I think it looks okay. But I don't know. Maybe I just wish something else. I don't know. I'm looking at the image right now. The boots look great. The trunks look great. The cape looks great. I like the New 52 adjacent collar. I wonder what it is that just doesn't work. I think it's the arms just have a little too much detail going on them. I like that it's a little like puffy and doesn't fit him perfectly. I think that's really cool. I don't know. For a first image, I do like it. And I think this image is going to be pretty fun to just like think about for the next year or so. What's going to like come up from the character. I just like, I know we're in like a dark room. I just thought that we'd use like a brighter blue. I don't know. But again, like Superman is a character that goes through like 100 different costumes. We'll get a new one. I'm not worried about it. I'm not saying we're going to see Electric Blue Superman in the next 10 years on the big screen, but I wouldn't be against it or be like, it's never going to happen. There is a chance it could happen. It might happen. So that's interesting. And our final piece of news to talk about is this very interesting thing that, you know, a new Riddick movie's coming out. Riddick Furya. Furya. A new Riddick. How's that for ya? Furya. Whatever. Furya? I don't care. Yeah, Vin Diesel's back. They're going to be looking for I don't know, launching soon. Next year, maybe it's going to come out. More Riddick. There you go. You know, The last one was 2013. Was it? No, that can't be true. That can't be true, was it? I remember seeing that one in theaters. Was that 2013? God, what has life become? That's exhausting. Oh my God. But there you go. I'm not a Vin Diesel head, but there you go. That's kind of fun. So that's it for the news. Let's take a quick break. And when we come back, it's ape time. We're going to go ape shit, folks. Let's talk apes, everybody. It's time. Kingdom for the Planet of the Apes is coming out the weekend that this is going live to you to listen to. And I'm so excited. I love Planet of the Apes movies. And the last one was, 7 years ago? Was it 2017 we had War? It's been a minute. But it's one of those things that's been constantly in my life. For as long as I've been alive, there has essentially been at least 2 to 3 different iterations of Planet of the Apes. If you count the extended media of like comic books and video games and all that stuff, there's always apes to explore. And that's awesome. And I've said it numerous times before. I will say it again. This is probably my definitive franchise. If you had a gun to my head and said, pick your favorite movie franchise of all time, I would easily put Tron, The Muppets, and Planet of the Apes at the top. I think Planet of the Apes is the top. Just because it is the most franchisable one. There's always extended universe stuff coming out. Marvel Comics has been publishing new Apes comic books. They have been republishing the old stuff. We are just getting inundated with new stuff. Also, at the time of this recording, NECA Toys is reissuing their original line of Planet of the Apes action figures in like a huge 4-pack collection that gets you Zaius and Zira, and I think it's Ursus is I think General Ursus is one of them, and then one of the Gorilla Soldiers, which is awesome because I never got those original figures, so I'm definitely pre-ordering those and hoping they come soon. It's just really damn cool to have apes coming back. I love it. I love this franchise so much that the very idea of it returning just makes me smile. Because there is always something to say about society and our world and whatever in terms of the apes. And it's just cool to see that. It's one of those properties that just silently and quietly does pretty dang good. Where people are always like, oh yeah, an apes movie, I love that. I like all of them. And arguably, there is 0 to maybe 2 bad apes movies. I think for the most part, people genuinely love the majority of the films, even if they're not in your top 20 films of all time. They are very good movies. And enjoyable and classic science fiction, which is something I just adore so much. I love classic science fiction. If you follow the other show I do called Movie Tales, you know we spend a lot of time looking at science fiction before Star Wars, where Star Wars kind of changed the game. And that's why I like classic Star Trek. It's why I like Barbarella so much. It's why I like Forbidden Planet so much. It's just we have this basic concept. What if somebody comes to a mystery planet, things kind of look the same, but they're slightly different, and then we can talk about society? And nothing is more like that than Planet of the Apes, where it's just a franchise where a guy shows up and he's like, wait a minute, this isn't normal. These apes are in clothes and taking pictures and stuff. Huh? And then he realizes society is broken and different and humans can't talk. And then it's actually Earth. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's really cool and it looks great. And there's never been an ugly movie. Say what you will about any of the films, but they've always been some of the best, hair and makeup and costuming and practical effects and visual effects you have ever seen on film. The original films have some of the best practical effects you've ever seen. The way we did the original apes, it's incredible. It's something we never do anymore, and it looks so spectacular. Just even if you look at the original film from '68, it's impressive we made it work then. But even when we go further down, we kind of lose some of the budget and things get cheaper. The costumes still look great. We found a design that worked and it stuck with these characters, and it looked incredible throughout all of that. And then even when we move to the modern era of like the Tim Burton movie, which I just talked about in great detail, it is impressive how those look. It is just an update of the practical effects and prosthetics of the original movie. And that's great. And then we get to like the modern era, like the Rise of Dawn War era and the Kingdom era that's coming up. It's just some of the best evolution of practical and like visual effects you've ever seen. We do a lot of the stuff on sets in the later movies of like the Matt Reeves era, but we just use so many great visual effects that show you like this is special. It's the best visual effects you've seen out there. It doesn't get talked about as much as some other people, or even like some other just like big sci-fi properties, you know, like Dune or Avatar. But the way that Planet of the Apes uses visual effects, especially in like those later two movies, Dawn and War, it is insane. It is just like the perfect blend of a classic chimp aesthetic mixed with like humanizing the features and the faces a little bit more. It's beautiful. It's some of the best work of Andy Serkis's career, of Toby Kebbell's career, of any of those people's career. It's just so incredible to see all of that because we don't see this type of like big performance in that capacity with visual effects that much. So when it's done right, it looks seamless and beautiful, and it blends so well together. There's something so special about that, so interesting about that. It's utterly incredible. I love this franchise. I don't know. I'm trying to like think back what would have been like the first Planet of the Apes movie I saw. I think it was the Tim Burton 2001 era movie. I distinctly remember, and I've talked about this before actually. We watched this movie in one of like my high school classes, like early high school, like freshman era. And it was like, analyze this movie. And I was like, you want me to analyze a Planet of the Apes movie? This thing I'm just seeing has apes doing weird shit, and there's beautiful women and beautiful apes fighting and stuff. Okay, I'll analyze this movie. So I talked about it in extensive detail. I would argue I was probably 14 to 15. And that was the first like piece of like film criticism and critique I ever wrote. I talked about like the complex society and how like this movie captures this different stuff. And I don't think the teacher liked it too much because I didn't do good. And it's like, this isn't that good of a movie. And I was really upset. Like, yeah, I don't think the movie's that good either, but I like everything I'm seeing. Did I really do a bad job of critiquing this movie or like writing about this movie? I don't think I did. I went a lot into like the religious aspects of that. I love that stuff. Like, I love talking about religion in like movies and science fiction like this, just like how society is built. And we're hearing a lot of rumors that like the new movie is going to feature that heavily as well, where the new movie's like Caesar becomes like this ape-like Christian figure and how like that gets diluted and stuff. My God, does that sound awesome. I'm all for that. That sounds so cool. Well, I just really dig this energy and everything. And yeah, I do think just watching the Tim Burton movie, both recently and when I was a kid, I was like, yeah, this is not the most religious of the two, but I think using Pericles like the godlike figure where people see him come down and they all just start to worship like he was one of the first, that's interesting to me. I really connected with that. That would be like my first like real connection to apes and stuff, was that aspect of it where it's like, here's the heavy religious undertones. That's what I picked up right away from it. And what I kind of just like ran with and what I'm continuing to run with a lot of this stuff. Because I think that also plays like a crucial part into all these movies, into all this stuff, is just the nature of like fact versus fiction and the mythology of a being and something like that. It's something we see played out numerous times in different iterations. The hubris of man is another huge theme in that, which is another thing I love. And just like, what is science and what do we worship and that kind of stuff, going against the norm. Is any of this biologically, evolutionarily possible? That stuff's so fucking cool. I love all of that energy so much, and they just do so many interesting things in that capacity. And it's just awesome. And I'm going to imagine. I wish I could remember when I first watched the original Planet of the Apes from '68. I think I was 15. I know I remember watching the first one, like the Burton one, and being like, yeah, this is interesting. What else do we have? And I believe I watched the '68 one when I was 15. I remember the first time I watched it, I was watching it on Netflix back when like no other streaming service was ever imagined or anything. And Netflix had every single movie you could ever want to watch. I remember watching it on that. And I was watching it on like my old laptop, which is I can't even watch a movie on my laptop anymore. It's too much. I need a big screen. I'm watching this, I'm like, okay, this looks amazing. And I don't know if I'm getting the themes of this perfectly because I'm a young guy and I don't know everything. But there is not a single thing I'm looking at that's upsetting me. None of this looks boring to me. None of this is unappealing to me. I just don't know if it's like connecting with me on a large enough scale to where I'm like obsessed with it yet. But as time went on, I learned to really fall in love with that movie. And I would consider it in my top, oh my God, would I say top 10 movies of all time? That is a bold statement. I would at the very least say it's in my top 20 films of all time. Like, it is one I could go, you could throw it on at any moment and I would sit down and watch it. I would literally like leave a conversation with the most beautiful woman I've ever seen in my life to go watch Planet of the Apes because that's all I would think about. If it is adjacent to me in any single capacity, I'm gonna go watch it. I could be at the most poppin' party. I could be at the Met Gala, which was at this weekend, and if I see, I don't know, Jonathan Bailey is watching the trailer on his phone, I'm going to like lean over and watch it with him and just be like, dude, do you want to just like go watch this right now? I would do that in a heartbeat. That's just how much I love this franchise. Because it's awesome and it's cool. And it's more than the movies. I know that. I primarily do it for my movie stuff, but look, I have an original Planet of the Apes book. I have one of the earliest releases. I do believe, I'll have to pull it out and check again. It's from my school library, and I think it's been, like, the high school I went to, it was around for a while. I know it was at least, like, constructed in the 70s. And the book was published in 63. So I'm not certain it's an original printing, but I wouldn't be shocked if it was an original printing. I think I'm actually going to look this up now. I have the book from my school library. I graduated 10 years ago, and I still got it, so well, less than 10, whatever. I've had the book for a long time, and nobody's really bothered to ask, because who is going to check out the Planet of the Apes book? Half these kids don't even know it's based on a book, and that's the problem with them. But that original book, I had so much fun reading it. I don't even think I read it in high school. I think I read it later, and I'm like, this is awesome. This looks so cool. Just the classic sci-fi. I have read a lot of the old school comic books as well. I've been really digging the modern stuff that Marvel's doing because, of course, Disney purchased Fox. They got the rights to Alien and Predator and Planet of the Apes. So now we've had a couple of Planet of the Apes books from Marvel Comics. Currently, we had a really cool one that's like a COVID story set in like the modern era, and like a follow-up that's set between the original Planet of the Apes movie and Beneath the Planet of the Apes. That's a really fun one. And there's been a couple of video games I've never played, but there's always just so much stuff there. But primarily, it's just about the movies for me. That's where I go. That's what I love. And I love all the issues that come up with that. The racial issues of everything, the animal rights stuff, like what does it mean to like hurt and things, and just the aspect of science and evolution. It's so fascinating. And it's just in like not a realistic setting, but it's in a way that I think is very palpable to like general audiences where you're like, yeah, I guess apes could rise up and do stuff to us if they wanted to, if that happened. And you gotta respect that. It's pretty cool. And I also just really love, and I appreciate this so much in every single one of the movies, you have actors committed to doing the apes justice. In every single iteration, you have actors who are willing and wanting to make this work. Andy Serkis, Tim Roth, like Andy McDowell, you are having people really do justice. Roddy McDowell. I'm so sorry. I'm kind of like reading a couple other pieces of news, and like Andy McDowell's name just like showed up for some reason. But yeah, Roddy McDowell. What did I just watch him in? I know I just watched him in something. I can't remember. Whatever. But you know, it's fun. We all have fun here. Actors are cool. People do a great job of portraying apes, is what I'm saying. It's kind of cool. I love it. Roddy McDowell rocks. Oh my goodness. I love it. I do love it. I'm obsessed with it, and it's so much fun, and there's so many just areas you can explore and do stuff like that. Like, it's kind of interesting that, like, the new era talked about, like, a virus that, like, affected humanity but let the animals roam the earth, like, before COVID came out. Like, that's pretty cool to talk about that stuff and all the Cold War nature of it. I love nuclear fallout and nuclear warfare stuff, and like just like that era of science fiction is so interesting because it's just a bunch of people talking like, this is what's going to happen if we drop the bombs on each other. We're going to go crazy. We're going to like live in Yankee Stadium and shit, and we're going to like have mutated humans that are going to blow up the earth and stuff. It's crazy. It's awesome. I love it so much. Another movie we talked about on this channel that features Charlton Heston in like a post-apocalyptic Earth where like mutated people are trying to get him is The Omega Man. And that is a movie very similar in vein to this. I am now just realizing we talked a lot about Heston because we talked about the Richard Lester like Musketeer movies. We talked about The Omega Man. We talked about Planet of the Apes. I don't even think I'm that big of a Heston guy. You see this guy and he is just so fucking unbelievable to look at. He looks gruff but tough and hot at the same time. There's so much machismo and like classic masculinity to him that he's perfect for this. And he's everything that Wahlberg wasn't or James Franco wasn't or whatever. But he's just a tough, gruff, look at this block of cheese man, this perfect angry old fuck. And he's just so good at it. And that original movie, I mean, we could do a commentary on it if we had to. It's brilliant. It is just perfect use of sets and story, and this anomaly shows up in the form of Chuck Heston, and he's like this smart, capable human, and people are like, they should have rights. They're animals that deserve rights because they have sentience and being, but the science forbids this from ever being possible. And it's so much of just like the science wing of like Zaius and his people and his council like hiding the truth from all of that stuff. Like, we can't tell you like the truth about our history or any of that. And it's brilliant. And I love, like, this is the other thing I love about Planet of the Apes, and something I always tell people. Like, it doesn't start off as this like action heavy story. We have action and violence and there's like guns and stuff. But it's not like this is a franchise where it's about a big war is coming. It eventually becomes that in different iterations, especially like towards the end of like the original incarnation of like the 5 movies. But this first one, the big climactic thing is like a council meeting where they try to decide if Taylor is worth keeping alive or worth like looking at. And then we go to like a dig site where we discover like old toys from prehistoric man. And that's when we realize that there's lies being fed to us by our government. I'm just like, yes, please. That's fucking awesome. I love that so much. It's so cool. It's so different. And you never know anything that's going to happen in these. It's just incredible. Like that original movie, the best visual effects, the best practical effects. It's just the perfect blend of all of the worlds coming together. And it's just so many people just committed to the bit. Kim Hunter, Roddy McDowell, Maurice Evans, they're all just fantastic. Like, I love it so much, and the looks are so iconic. And it's got one of my favorite sequences where Chuck's like, Zira, I'd like to kiss you now. And she's like, but you're so ugly. And I'm like, yes! Why would she be attracted to, like, this dog, you know? It's awesome. It's so cool. It's so different. I dig it so much. And then Beneath the Planet of the Apes, the sequel movie, where we find people living underground. This one's more about nuclear fallout, which makes sense. We're entering the 70s era, and it's just a little weird. It's not the best movie of the bunch. It's not the worst, but there is something very interesting about it, that's very fun, a little bit different, and we introduce a couple of new characters, and it's like a new guy, and he's going to show up, and he's going to be there because we can't have Heston in the whole movie, so a new guy's going to show up, and he's going to be like, this is terrifying, what's going on? But a lot of the original cast returns. It's like a big budgeted sequel, more stuff is going on, and people like it. And this is where you start to see like, oh man, this is becoming a franchise that people want to see. We should just start pumping these out a lot. And then I think it's in the next movie, I would argue, where it starts to really become about like the apes and their like insurrections and stuff. Because after we have Beneath, we have Escape from the Planet of the Apes, which is a weirder movie, but it's still Kim Hunter and Roddy McDowell. And he's back because was he in Beneath? I don't think he was one of the ones in Beneath, but after he comes back, he's one of the guys that becomes like a main fixture of this universe, and he plays different characters in it. But it's Zira and Cornelius going back to like the United States. And it does the Star Trek thing that Star Trek would do later, where it's like we could just... Well, I guess they did it kind of like before, too, in the 60s, where if we just say we go to a planet that looks like today, we could just film outside. So they kind of do that. And then they're, like, captured by humans, and they, like, have to, like, deal with stuff, and it becomes, like, this weird thing. And it's such a weird movie. Like, it's such, like, one of those weird concepts where you're like, we've done enough with, like, the ape society. What if we did, like, a switcheroo and the apes came to our society? Which, it's like, I don't know. Doesn't that, like, defeat the purpose of, like, the Planet of the Apes? But we escaped that. And then in the next two movies, we kind of, like, shift narrative a lot more. Because then in the next movie, it's about Caesar, and Caesar... in this iteration is the son of Cornelius and Zira, and he like works in like a slave encampment, and he like starts a revolution. It's Roddy McDowell again. And it's just like, wow, this is crazy. And as these go on, the budgets get lower and they get kind of more crazy, but they aren't bad. The thing is, as low as the budgets can get, and we'd like drop off pretty heavily to like a very small budget by the end of the franchise and like Battle for the Planet of the Apes, we are not getting a lot of money. But you know what? It happens. It exists. And it's kind of about like the inevitability of like war and revolution, and like we're always going to get to a world where we kill ourselves, which is, it's awesome. 5 movies of just like the truth is unavoidable. Eventually society is going to destroy itself and reinvent itself, as it has since the dawn of society itself. Whether that's humans or apes, that is just what's going to happen. And I'm like, you're right. That is society. That is what these are about. And that's crazy and cool to think about. I love that. I love that. If you haven't seen any of these movies, I'm sure you've probably seen the 68 one. They get weirder and worse, arguably, but you're going to get something so interesting from each and every one of these movies. There's just so much to think about and harp onto. And recently we talked about Phantom of the Paradise. Paul Williams shows up in Battle for the Planet of the Apes. Virgil. It's crazy. There's so much to love here. And then in the 70s, they also made like a TV series, which it was fine. I don't think anybody like remembers it. It didn't run for that long, but it's kind of cool that like they made that. Like we made a Planet of the Apes TV show. Like I don't know why we're not doing that today. Like I think there's so much you could explore doing like an anthology series of Planet of the Apes. Tales of the Planet of the Apes is what you could call an anthology series today. And we follow different sectors of ape society, and they're learning different things. Maybe you have like one who's like following in the footsteps of like the science brigade, or someone who's like a revolutionary, like a hippie going against the standards like that. Bring it back to that era, man. Now, I have not seen Kingdom for the Planet of the Apes yet, but I'm starting to think we're going to be seeing the seeds that are being sown to make this new era look and feel a little bit more like the classic era. I feel like we're going to see characters in more clothing. We're going to see them with like the slicked back hair a little bit more. I feel like we're headed that direction, which is pretty dang cool. And then we have the film from Tim Burton. We talked about it heavily recently. It is not a great movie. That definitely feels weird. But there is stuff about it I like. Actors who are also committed to making these characters feel great. I really like Tim Roth. I really like Helena Bonham Carter in that. And I think there are some areas to explore. Like, it's not all perfect, but they do some things right in that era. And I do appreciate it for that. It looks insane. And then we do like the reboot 10 years later from that because time is cyclical and it gets shorter and shorter when we reboot stuff. And they're fucking awesome. Like, this would be like the first era I've seen them in theaters where I saw all of these in theaters. I think since then oh God, did I? I think I have seen the 68 film in cinemas to celebrate 50 years. Would it be 50? Yeah, 50 years in 2018. I believe I saw that. I'd have to, yes, I think I did, yeah. But we have this now, the new modern era where we just kind of like update it. Let's do like the origin story. How do we get to what the Planet of the Apes is going to look like? Well, we have to start with the rise. So we follow Caesar. This time around, Caesar is not the son of Cornelius or Zira. He is just a chimp who was in captivity, raised by James Franco. And James Franco tried to create like a virus to cure Alzheimer's or something. It made his apes smart. And then it became like a revolution where the apes took over like the forest in San Francisco. And it is a good movie. Of the trilogy, it might be the weakest, but it's like a 4 out of 5, you know? Like, it's still an incredible movie that looks interesting and has great visual effects and is doing something we don't do anymore. And it's just so creative and a perfect reimagining and retelling of this world and giving us a whole new way to look at it. Where we're starting to look at, like, the effects of captivity and, like, animal rights and stuff. And as we progress in the series, it starts to become, like, this really interesting, like, kind of like story about like what does it mean to live in society and warring factions in dystopia, but also it's about like the story of Caesar becoming this like, you know, Jesus like figure for a whole generation of people. And in Dawn, oh my God, Dawn is so good. Dawn is one of the best movies ever made. I will stand by that. It is just gorgeous with this intensity to it. You just have a faction of humans trying to raise like their society back to their levels by like turning on the reservoir for power. And it's like, do we allow these humans to live free or should we kill them because they hurt us? You are introduced to a great counterpart villain in Koba, played by Toby Kebbell, and you love that. Like, as the series progresses, like, I think the villains get more sadistic where, especially in like this modern era, Koba is a guy who has been like attacked and hurt by like every single human he's ever interacted with, so why would he want to help these humans thrive? Where Caesar has been raised by people he knows there's humanity in them and wants them to be okay. It's kind of brilliant. And it's like the perfect clash of Caesar. Do I protect my people or do I help these other people? What is the role I am supposed to play as leader? And ultimately it just leads to a big clash and a big fight. And it's brilliant. And then War for the Planet of the Apes, it's years later, and Caesar's an older man now, and his people are being attacked and hurt, and he's just like, I gotta protect my people. If I'm going to die, and I know I am, I have to protect my people. And it's just this beautiful kind of like send-off to the Caesar character, giving him like a climactic ending of just like, I have helped the people in my life I needed to help. I've made friends and enemies along the way. I'm haunted by my past. I'm going to be remembered for some aspect of my life, whatever that aspect is to be. I don't know yet, but I know I'm just going to be remembered for something. And you're just like, damn, are you kidding me? That's crazy. But it's happening, man. And you're just like, damn, dude, this is great. And Andy Serkis is delivering like career high performances. And that's from a storied career where he kind of like invented the motion capture performance. And you just think like, how much of this in this franchise being rebooted in this style is because of the success of Andy Serkis doing these performances and showing you like he can make this work and be realistic and inventing a way for these apes to walk and exist. And you're just like, this is brilliant. It's so cool and interesting. God, they're brilliant freaking movies. Like, they've never done anything bad, really. God, it's awesome. It's awesome. I love it so much. I love every aspect of it. This franchise rocks. I cannot wait for Kingdom. I hope we get more after Kingdom. I don't know if we will. I'm sure we will. I think this is going to track pretty good and do good numbers, but there's always something to say about society. I really like that this one feels like it's going to be about like how we like worship a false deity or how we like corrupt the image of a deity to our own liking. I think that's a really cool thing to explore and play with. I cannot wait to see how that's going to look. Like, that sounds really damn cool. And like, it's going to be something very different than what we've seen before. Apes are awesome. We've never had a bad ape movie. There's always something cool to look at the very least. And that's half the battle when it comes to a film. It's like, it's really freaking sick. I got to admit. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. I like apes so much. And I'm so pumped for more. So pumped for more. Can't wait to see what comes up. But that's going to do it for this episode of the GeekWave. Now, thank you all for watching this video. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, you can check me out on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And as always, I will catch you in the next one. Have fun. Stay safe. Good luck. And remember, apes together strong. We're awesome.